Welcome to the Black Gay History Channel. Please share this video and subscribe this channel for more captivating content. Though there have been gay liberation movements, cultural groups, and spiritual communities for thousands of years all around the world, one of the most prominent gay rights movements in modern times has come from the United States. Yet many Black or LGBTQ Americans may not realize how Black, gay, and LGBTQ people in general were so instrumental in creating this long-lasting legacy of progression for LGBTQ people globally. Civil rights movements for Black Americans post-American slavery has always been intertwined with gay rights efforts, even if this has yet to be widely recognized by Black Americans as a whole. Here's a brief rundown of historically significant Black gay people, places, and moments in American history that helped create tolerance and positive change for all Americans, and really the entire world. In the 1890s, because Black American culture, especially gay culture, was barely recorded during chattel slavery, most of the significant Black gay history came after. Felix and Pier Lafayette were two ex-slaves who had become free and were in a publicly recognized relationship, making them the only formerly enslaved men in American history to be documented to be in a gay relationship. They would also find community with other Black gay men and participated in the first Black drag pageants in American history. In the 1900s, William Dorsy Swan was an ex-slave who created the first drag balls and pageants where Black, gay, and queer men gathered to party, dress up in women's gowns, and private lavish parties. These drag parties would become so popular that they would be raided by authorities numerous times and were reported about in the Washington, D.C. papers. The first recorded formerly gay slaves, Felix and Pier Lafayette, were very close to Swan in this social scene. Because of William Swan's social power, he would advocate for his parties in the courts and would become the first gay American in history to advocate for gay rights publicly. Because of his popularity, William Swan was reported to be the first person to call themselves the Queen of Drag, or the first drag queen. In the 1920s and 1930s, the Harlem Renaissance is a celebrated period in Black American history during the 1920s and 30s where many Black Americans were gaining wealth and creating thriving businesses, new inventions, and artistic work that would be celebrated by the entire world. Though this time period is lauded by many Black Americans as an important and progressive time for Black American culture, the accomplishments of Black gay Americans during this time are heavily understated. Richmond Barth was one of the most accomplished and acclaimed sculptors of the time and was openly gay his entire career in the public. He would run in the same circles in Harlem, New York, and Paris, France as Farrell Benga, a popular gay Senegalese and French model, dancer, and movie actor. Many acclaimed writers, educators, and poets of the era were also gay men who socialized in the same circles, like nationally recognized Jamaican poet Claude McKay, the acclaimed writer and university educator Alain Locke, the Blacker the Berry author Wallace Thurman, and of course the celebrated poet Langston Hughes. In the 1930s and 1940s, racism and inequality are still pervasive in America, and during the 1930s and 40s, one of the ways that Black Americans expressed their discontent with the hard life in America was by singing the blues, and many of the most prolific blues and jazz performers of the times were gay and bisexual men and women. Many of the Black jazz and blues cabarets were gay-owned or gay-friendly, and even had drag king and queen performers like popular singer and comedian Frankie Half-Pint Jackson. Singer Billy Banks sang tongue-in-cheek gay songs like Peter, Oh Peter, and Ma Rainey, the mother of blues, and a huge star of the era had girlfriends and sang about them in her most popular songs. Bessie Smith is another bisexual blues star from that era, and Billy Strayhorn was a popular gay jazz writer and composer whose songs are still being covered by popular music artists today. Gay actor and business owner Jimmy Daniels was just one of many popular gay cabaret owners who owned an upscale, gay-friendly cabaret restaurant from 1939 to 1942. In the 1950s, the sounds of blues transformed into upbeat dance rhythms celebrating sexual power, and the next big musical breakthrough, rock and roll, that would take over American radio stations worldwide for decades after. But many people don't realize the creators behind the genre were Black gay men from the American South. The Prince of Blues, Billy Wright, was a popular gay singer in the 40s and 50s who would go on to inspire his protege and likely lover, Little Richard, considered the first star of the new sound that was rock and roll. Little Richard's most popular song, Tutti Frutti, was admitted by the singer himself to be about gay sex, and he would share his artistic aesthetic with another gay rock music icon and piano player, Escarita, who was also influential in music during the 50s. and eventually the 60s. In the 1960s, soul music and civil rights activism were important vehicles for Black Americans to express their culture and political viewpoints with the rest of America. And many Black gay Americans were in the center, being leaders in these fields even if they weren't widely recognized. Prominent and vocal author and civil rights activist James Baldwin was a fierce voice for Black Americans for many decades, and his many acclaimed novels centered race relations in their stories. His numerous TV appearances discussing race relations in the American news made James Baldwin one of the most visible and respected Black gay voices during his time. Bayard Rustin was a civil rights activist who worked closely with the NAACP and Martin Luther King, and was incredibly influential in creating successful peaceful protests through the 1940s and 50s and 60s. Though it's a less recognized part of his legacy, there was a time in his life when famed Black rights activist Malcolm X was bisexual. The Black Panther Party, a celebrated Black rights organization and America's leader, Huey P. Newton, wrote an open letter that welcomed gay members to the party, and one of the most prominent faces of the organization was lesbian activist and educator Angela Davis. In the 1970s. After the rise of civil rights and gay activism in the 1960s, the 1970s brought on gay parties and nightclubs that celebrated Black power and gay rights, especially in the dance music and popular gay dance clubs and discos that were being celebrated by gay people and straight people who loved the atmosphere. Popular Black gay discos and dance clubs sprung up all over America, creating a new community for the emerging and more openly gay community. Jules Catch One opened up in Los Angeles in 1973, becoming the first Black gay dance club owned by a gay woman, Jewel Williams herself. The first Black gay club in Washington, D.C., the Clubhouse, opened in 1975, and Jeffrey's Pub was already a popular Black gay bar in Chicago since the 1960s. The soundtrack of the 70s was also incredibly popular Black and openly gay singers like Sylvester James, who had several disco hits like You Make Me Feel Mighty Real and Dance Disco Heat. Popular singing groups like the Dynamic Superiors and the Village People had Black gay members in their band, and Dolomite, one of the most celebrated Black creators, actors, and musicians of the 70s, was a closeted gay man. One of the most popular faces at the most exclusive discos, like Studio 54, was the gay socialite, actor, singer, and fashion model Sterling St. Jacques, recognized as the first male supermodel in history. In the 1980s. In the 1980s, the American people, whether they liked it or not, were confronted with the topics of masculinity and gay sex in the news and American media. In the late 80s, AIDS and HIV were found as sexually transmitted diseases, leaving gay men particularly vulnerable, and many gay men, despite the stigma of AIDS, wanted to appear healthy and strong. Willie Smith and Patrick Kelly were just two of many groundbreaking and celebrated Black gay fashion designers and icons of the 80s who had passed from AIDS near the end of the decade. Popular athletes of the decade came out of the closet and spoke to the media about their experiences, like Major League Baseball player Glenn Burke and British football star Justin Fashanu. Bodybuilding was widely popular in the 1980s, and one of the most accomplished Black gay bodybuilders in history, Chris Dickerson, was winning countless weightlifting competitions in this decade. There would be a gay adult entertainment boom in the 1980s, with many Black gay performers gaining acclaim in the gay community in such works as the Black Workout series. Because of the AIDS epidemic, many Black gay men raised awareness in health education and activism like Reggie Williams, or educated the masses in documentaries like Marlon Riggs. In the 1990s, Black gay men were reaching new political heights and military power in the 90s, and many others were setting up nonprofits all across the nation to support Black gay men's AIDS and HIV prevention efforts. In the 90s, there was also a significant amount of authors telling stories that represented love between Black gay men, details of their sex lives, and stories of resilience despite discrimination. In 1990, Keith St. John became the first Black gay person elected to any political office in the United States, representing Albany, New York. In 1992, Kenneth Reeves became the first openly gay Black man to be a mayor of a city in the U.S., in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Simon Nkosi was a South African gay rights and AIDS activist who was instrumental in advocating for the gay rights of South Africans during the end of the apartheid, helping to make South Africa one of the most gay-friendly governments on the earth, and showing the world how political progression for gay rights could look. Gay men fought for rights in government positions in the military, with gay veterans like Alan G. Rogers and Perry Watkins advocating for gay rights in the American military. Many Black gay men were also popular authors. like J.L. King detailing the lustful and deceptive world of DL men in his best-selling book On the DL. Elin Harris released numerous best-selling books about black gay and bisexual men's relationships and popular fictional novels like Invisible Life, Basketball Jones, and If This World Were Mine. James Earl Hardy's book series B-Boy Blues created a popular fictional gay world for black gay men that embraced their love of street and hip-hop culture. For more info on black gay history throughout the ages, check out our playlist section. Thanks for watching.